Welcome to Bon Jovi Discussions. Today I have my friend. I'm very excited about this episode. Dan Parinello, son of Al Parinello. How are you?
Jerry, I am tired. I am more than tired. I would actually say I'm exhausted. But I am extremely an extremely happy guy at this moment. That's
Yeah,
for damn sure. Damn
and
sure.
I cannot wait to hear. I know that I've told you the last, couple days here. I wanted to wait for the podcast to hear your story. So this is the first
Sure.
time I'm going to be hearing your story. But before we get into our topic for the night, I
Mhm.
want you to because I know a lot of fans know the history behind your dad, Al Parinello, and
Mhm.
what AP95 means, but I know there's a lot of other fans that don't know the history. So I want to give you a moment just to kind of explain the history of your dad and Bon Jovi and so forth.
Sure. So, as some of the obviously, like Jerry said, some of the fans of the broadcast and of the band may know via the Hulu special, the Hall of Fame induction. Um, AP95 is on John's Takamine guitar. It's been there since 1995. AP95 is my father, Al Parinello. He was, if you once again saw the specials, he was John's first real guitar teacher. John talks about the guy with the cubicle smoking a pipe. That's not my dad. We had a nice basement in Sayreville, New Jersey, right on Robin Hood Drive, where my father also, besides his regular day job, he had a band, and then he also taught guitar to some neighborhood kids, two of which have made it pretty big. One obviously is being John, and the other one obviously being Dave Snake Sabo from the band Skid Row. So the AP95 came from uh, the time when my father passed away. John was on tour, and he actually told the story again just recently. He was on tour. He was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, when we knew my father had very little time left. We contacted John. John came home, attended all the services, was a pallbearer amongst just being with family and stuff. And then he went back to Tennessee. Knew he had to do something to commemorate the meaning of my father with him, and he took a fork from room service and carved AP95 into his guitar, and that guitar has been with him ever since. And that who is Al Parinello, or as everyone knows it from his guitar, AP95.
Yeah. And that guitar is still played today. And just as you're telling this story, I'm looking, getting goosebumps. I'm looking around, my Bon Jovi room, and I'm looking at pictures of, right now of John holding a guitar and it says AP95. And a lot of the famous photos of John holding that guitar,
Yeah.
AP95. And for anyone that's listening to this podcast, if you, I've had Dan on before, telling, telling the story behind his dad and, childhood stories, memories of Dan and John and stuff. So go listen to that episode if you haven't already, because there's a lot of fun stories. And I still say this, Dan, I am so jealous that you've gotten to hear the band rehearse multiple times in your
Yes.
basement
Yeah.
for the tour. What I would have given to have experienced that. Awesome.
It's funny. I know we'll talk about it in a little bit, but there's some other people from my past that found out about that the rehearsal stories
Yeah.
yesterday for the first time. You're talking, I mean, I've been out of school, what now, 35 years,
Yeah.
40 years. And you're like, what? You're kidding me. And I'm like, yeah, it was 40 years ago, but you didn't know. And you're like, oh my God, you're crazy. So,
Yeah. Well, so what we're going to talk about today is, and I'm just going to let you take the show from my hand, and you're just going to tell your story. But we're going to talk about, so in Sayreville, New Jersey, where John was, grew up, and went to high school. What, I think 11th and 12th grade. Um,
yes,
he Sayreville War Memorial High School
correct.
um, opened up the John Bon Jovi Performing Arts Center, and it also includes a JBJ Music Suite, and also includes an honor of your dad. And I'm just going to shut up now, and I'm just going to let you tell the story behind them opening it, your story of being there yesterday, and my lips are sealed.
Okay, so for my part of the story, actually, I could even tell you from knowledge. This all started December of last year. Um, the principal of the school, Rich Glohusky, um, I happened to graduate high school with Rich's older brother John, but Richie and John and we were all friends, played baseball together. We grew up together, in Sayreville back in the late '80s, and or I should say the '80s. I shouldn't say late '80s. I apologize, but he contacted me a month later after he had already talked to John's team and so on and so forth, and he said, "Listen, what we're trying to do here is we're going to name the Performing Arts Center the John Bon Jovi Performing Arts Center, and it's going to include the music room, choral room, the theater, anything that has to do with the arts." Now, being from Sayreville High, playing marching band for 5 years, I know what area of the school he's talking about. Basically, if you're looking at the school, it is the entire left quadrant, left side there. Beautiful theater. The theater's always been a beautiful theater, air conditioned, nice seats. They always did a great job at that. I used to do the sound for the theater with the help of my father as well, besides playing in marching band as well. So when Rich told me about it, I was intrigued. But when the first question he asked me was, "Do you have any pictures of John and your dad?" Now, unfortunately, this is 2020 something, 2023, 24 that I'm talking to Rich about this. We moved here to North Carolina in 2010, in August of 2010. The February prior, we had a flood in our house in Toms River, New Jersey, and we lost thousands of photos, including a lot of the photos of John and my dad. We actually were also asked, and this is, we were also asked if we had photos of my dad for other things that Bon Jovi had planned with documentaries and other assorted specials. We don't have anymore. I mean, this stuff got destroyed. There are some out there still. I know I don't have any in this house because I've been through the attic, I've been through the closets, and it's hard to find. So one of the things I do have, and it'll come up on another special that Jerry and I will be doing later on, is I have the second record, 7800 degrees Fahrenheit. When it went gold, we were at a concert at Brendan Byrne Arena. John was awarded the gold record that day. It was a big deal. And John had one made specifically for my father. And he brought my father to the podium with Derek Schulman, president of Polygram Records. And it was an amazing night. So I actually have that record here in my house. But I thought about it. I'm like, I can't give this up. This is a one-time thing. So that, like I said, that's all January, February, for a while, Rich and I had a little very brief contact, because it was still being developed, this whole performing arts center. How are they going to do it? Who's going to have the input into it? What is going to be happening with it? So fast forward to 6 weeks ago, I get a text, and since I'm doing this on the computer, I can actually read the text, which is really cool because this is all about technology.
Yeah, I know. Beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yes, isn't it? So 6 weeks ago, I get a text message from Rich, and he said, "Oh, almost there. Here he goes. Send pictures of the stuff if you can, looking for something with Dad and John." He said he was going to ask because we did send one or two in for the Hulu special. So he was going to ask Matt about it as well. Then he says to me on that day, he goes, "Well, we are planning something real nice for Dad too. And just stay tuned for that." So at this point, didn't know anything. We didn't know what was going to be happening, but Rich and I maintained a lot of conversation. He told me also the date, which was originally October 2nd, which is actually today. But it actually took place yesterday on the 1st. We had to make some scheduling changes for those involved. So it was about 4 weeks ago where they let me know that they were going to be dedicating a state-of-the-art recording studio to my father, calling it the AP 95 recording studio. They showed me a mock-up of what was going to be put on the door. So it was going to be, kind of thing. And so it was a really great thing. And my wife and I decided, yeah, we're going to Jersey for this. And I was also told at that time, you can't tell anybody, this is keeping it under wraps. And I'm like, okay, but I didn't know what to do. So then he explained to me more and more about the studio. And when I hung up with him, I started crying immediately because I mean, this is when you think about it, yeah, John does an amazing job. Dave also does an amazing job tributing dad as much as they do. But this is concrete. This is now,
Yeah.
yes, the guitar is obviously huge, but this is a concrete structure that ain't going anywhere, and just the idea of it really brought tears to my eyes. So we confirmed everything about 2 weeks ago, and yesterday was the big day. So Renee and I flew into New Jersey pretty early, and we went right. Our first stop was the John Bon Jovi rest area on the Parkway.
Shut down.
But no, they opened it. It was
Oh, it's open now?
It is open. It is
Okay.
open. We took a bunch of pictures in there. They got a beautiful mural, a huge wall set up. And sure enough, one of the pictures of John has AP95, the guitar, which is really cool. There's other things like when you walk through the main entrance. Plus, there's the one sign that says John Bon Jovi and has the guitar there too outside. Yeah, it was open. I was able. And side note, there's a Carlos Bakery. The Cake Boss. There's a Carlos Bakery vending machine in there. You can get cake out of a vending machine.
Ooh.
I don't recommend cake out of a vending machine now. So,
But
but
that
that's
I
just
would
me.
try.
That's just me. That's just me. Yeah, so we stopped at the rest area. It's pretty cool. Then we toured the neighborhood, because we were a little early. Saw my old house. Definitely doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it looks terrible. But that's just between me and no. I'll tell everybody it looks terrible. Drove past John's old house across the street, of course, and I was picking out other. And the one great thing about picking it out was these houses I'm pointing at. Not only were they our friends, they were students of my father. There's
Wow.
Gary and there's Gino Lombardo, Andrew McCarra. All these people lived around the corners, and they were all students of the cool dad, the cool dude that taught guitar and played music.
Yes.
So, so we did that, and then we get to the school. You pull up into the school, and right away on the building, boom, John Bon Jovi Performing Arts Center.
So they already had it wide. They didn't cover it up.
Just got installed on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, right on the outside. Boom. It was awesome. Just seeing that was pretty cool. Get inside, met with my friend Rich, of course, and then we started the tour. We were still waiting for the big event, but we started the tour. Showed us some things were still covered. We weren't allowed to see them until the unveiling. We went into the rooms and stuff, and right away in the hallways of where the Performing Arts Center is, there's lyrics to all the songs, and they're all over the place. And I did a Facebook post earlier today, so if anybody has on Facebook, you can see it. I do have a bunch of pictures. There's a lot of pictures I didn't even get, but there's some, and these are lines that you pretty much know. And if you don't, it's really great to see, what he's thinking when he's writing these lyrics. There's also some amazing other stuff. And if anybody saw the Hulu special, the set list from the Atlantic City Expressway block party, the lyrics to all these songs from back in the day.
Lyrics to Bobby's Girl.
So there was so many different things that are going on. Then you walk into the music suites, and there's a whole wall of every record cover of John's. And then on the other side, there's more pictures of John and the band. Then as you're walking through, there's equipment covers from the flight cases, all mounted on the walls. The tributes are amazing. There's a tech lab, and in the tech lab, boom, there's more lyrics on the wall. I think the one I actually saw was from Never Say Goodbye. Just an amazing thing. So then we go into the choral room. And this is where the reception basically was. And, at this point, I'm just looking around and they said to me, I know what you're waiting to see. And it was actually a guy I went to school with, Jimmy Comasberger was there. And he said to me, he goes, I know what you're waiting to see. And he goes, well, it's right over there. And I'm not going to go in because it's obviously this is all revolving around John. John had not arrived yet. I wanted him to see basically his Graceland, and it's one of those things. Let's let him see his thing first. So soon after John arrived, and along with David Snake Sabo and John's brother Matt and John's wife Dorothea. So they got to start touring the area, and they were looking at the album covers, the lyrics, the songs, and so many other things that we take for granted. But this is all about him, and all his creations and stuff. So him and Dave were going back and forth with some great banter. It was hilarious, some of the funny stuff they were saying. They had the yearbooks out on a table in the reception area of the years they were in school. You see Dave's picture as a sophomore where he had short hair. And here's Dave at the event with hair down to the middle of his back. And he was a sophomore with his little bob cut. You see John from, even in his sophomore year, shorter hair and so on. It's like crazy. It was just surreal. And just see, there was joy on their faces. There really was. Yeah. So then John was going to go see the recording studio. And, there was a lot of decision making with the recording studio. And sorry about that. So we were, John went to the recording studio. I followed him there. And so we were, I just was, at that point, I was shocked, the plaque that is up. This is actually a replica of it.
Yeah. And wow. Yeah, I've seen but just for the viewers, can you pull that up just for the people watching on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Man. And I'll have this as my cover photo for the YouTube video anyway. But
then there's that.
And if I could just interject just for a second, because I wanted to bring this up when you brought the plaque up.
Mm-hmm.
When you were talking about, photos with your dad and John, two things that I was thinking of, back in we live in such a different society now where we have to have photos of everything, and we constantly have a camera in our hands. That's why there's photos but back then, and obviously I wasn't born back in there, but my train of thought is, back then you just kind of lived in the moment. You didn't always have a camera in your hand to take photos. So that's one thought. And my second thought was, I'm surprised that when there were photos that they weren't easily found of your dad and John, especially with John's art, because John kept everything.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, including a second place trophy in the Battle of the Bands.
But I want to talk about that photo that's in the plaque there, that one in the middle.
Yes.
I think that's 1985 JBJ there in that photo.
Yes, I believe it was. That was the night he was my dad wearing the members only jacket too, his purple members only jacket. Like we used to joke with him that he was the last member. That was Brendan Bernardino.
So who found that photo?
That photo is probably the last one that we have. My brother actually had that photo.
Okay, so it came from your brother. I wonder where that photo came from.
That picture is also, it's been in a couple other specials too. It was actually in the Oprah special, or a version of that photo was in the Oprah special too, the masterclass. Oprah Winfrey
from 2005.
Yeah, the one a while back. Yeah,
I don't recall that. Okay, yeah.
It wasn't the beginning part when he was talking about Dad. It was talking about the necklace. And then at the end of it, there was one last photo of John and Dad. That version, that photo there was probably, without question, about 20 photos taken in that moment. So there's different positions they were in and so on and so forth. But that was the moment where he brought my dad up to the podium and awarded him the gold record. And
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it was an incredible night. Um, it wasn't mentioned yesterday during the event, but that night he was actually opening for Rat, which is funny now because Rat is struggling to survive,
Yeah.
and John's sitting on top of the world. But the thing was, um, while Rat was playing, we were we were downstairs partying with MTV VJs. Yes, they did play music back then. Uh, other band member from other members of other bands. Um, Big guns from McGee Entertainment, Polygram Records. It was just an amazing party. And yeah, Brendan Bernardino, he was opening for Rat that night. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was like I said, we saw like maybe the first two or three songs from Rat, and then it was time to go back because the boys wanted to get cleaned up before the big award ceremony. So
Wow.
yeah,
What?
but that picture is from that night. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm really glad to kind of hear that because when you showed me the photo of the plaque earlier, I was kind of wondering where did that photo come from because I've never seen that photo,
Yep.
and I was wondering where it came from and so but yeah I didn't want to interject in the middle of your
Don't
story.
worry.
I kind of wanted to talk about that plaque for a
So
second.
that is mounted right next to the door of the studio. You walk through the doors of the studio, and then right immediately on the right hand side is that picture. There's another large photo of that. The studio itself is state of the art, all highest tech that you can imagine. 100-inch Ultra HD monitor.
Ooh,
It's the biggest thing I've ever seen, in person. And the curtains in the room, and like I said, it's on my Facebook page, my Facebook post right now. The curtains were in John's recording studio in his home for 25 years, and he had them moved to that recording studio. So
wow.
it's actually another piece of memorabilia that's now there, part of the whole process. So it's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think it's so cool too that, and we'll get into this a little bit,
Mhm.
but it's cool that this kind of motivates students to, because they think, okay, two big rock stars have come from the school, especially John.
Yes.
And to think, this, Sayreville is this, little, and obviously, you grew up there, this little town, and nobody makes it big from here, but they do, so this, just John's whole story that he made it big. And
Yeah.
I think having a recording studio and having all these opportunities for these students at this school really motivates them to get into music. And it's a whole new generation of fans. I'm watching videos and photos of all these young kids excited to meet John. And so, it's amazing to see a younger generation of fans
Yes, sir. Yeah.
support this band and see how their legacy just keeps going.
Well, it's funny you say it that way because the next part of my story for this event um, kind of encompasses that as well. So we took some more photos. They removed the banner, the cover off the Music Suite mural, which was painted by some of the students at Sayreville High School. Did a wonderful job on it too. Wonderful job. It's beautiful. And there's a plexiglass case, and John signed a guitar to the school, and that is going to be locked in that case, and it'll always be there, right outside the Music Suite area. So after that's all said and done, it was time for the induction for the Hall of Fame. So Sayreville has a Hall of Fame. The high school has a Hall of Fame. It's been around since 2005. But as with a lot of Hall of Fames, um, and I'm not no I get I'm not speaking out of turn on this one, but as a lot of Hall of Fames, they require the person to be there to be inducted,
Right.
unless they can't posthumously. So it was one of those things they were always trying to put together. They wanted to do it before COVID or around. Nope, COVID came. The induction ceremony went 2 years. They didn't induct anybody because of all that was going on. So then they started putting, their heads together about let's do the Performing Arts Center, and we'll get John here for it, and we'll do it that way. So, like I said, a lot of minds that weren't involved in my head at all were working their tails off to make this happen.
Yeah.
And that's why we have it happening yesterday. So they inducted John into the Hall of Fame. John said some amazing words, really inspiration to these kids that were able to see all this. Because in the auditorium, besides the invited guests, were students that have earned this kind of an opportunity to be there for this assembly, as well as have a chance to take part in a Q&A with John.
So could I interject with a quick question then? I apologize. So the students that were in that room, they were just invited. So there were still classes going on in
Oh,
session.
no. By that time, school had let out. School had let out.
Okay, so this took place after. Okay.
Yes. The students that were there were part of clubs that would benefit from hearing from John. There was the arts department, obviously, peer groups, business groups, science groups. There were certain things that, science and technology, I should say, that would benefit from hearing from one of the most successful people, if not on the planet, when it comes to him and what he has done with his life, but definitely probably, coming from that school. There are some others. I'm not going to lie. We do have some pretty big alumni. Let's see. So Dule Hill, he was an actor on the TV show Psych, as well as some other programs. Dule Hill graduated from Sayreville High School. Mike Wasco graduated from Sayreville High School. He was actually an Olympian in the bobsled. Who else? Oh, I don't know his name right now. He's an actor. He was just in the TV show Prison Break. Very, very successful actor, young actor. He was in that. And, there's some really big names that have been in the Hall of Fame. So, John getting in was definitely the biggest so far. And, a lot of people will agree with that. But the best part about the enshrine, or I should say, being inducted was John also engineered Dave Sabo getting inducted, and Dave had no idea.
Really?
I knew about it a week in advance. It was a big deal. And Dave had no idea. The look on his face was pure shock. He didn't have John had this nice speech ready for himself. Dave had nothing. And it was just a beautiful moment that these two guys who grew up together, played music together. Obviously, Dave was in probably the earliest version of Bon Jovi. These guys got to celebrate this day together. So after the induction ceremony, John sat down with the principal, Richie, and did a Q&A. And the way it opened up is the first thing that comes on the screen, boom, it says Al Parinello, AP 95, and there's a huge version of the plaque in the picture. Wow. And so Rich starts the Q&A. He goes, I want you to tell me about this. And he points to the screen. So, John talked about Al, who he was. He told the story that you definitely have heard on the interviews, through the basement, guitar down the stairs and blah, blah, blah. And he elaborated a little more about, getting to learn the song. And then he spoke about that at length. And then Rich asked him about the 98, the AP 95 on the guitar and stuff. And then he said some unbelievably beautiful words. I, was trying to listen with everything. I didn't take a lot of photos at that point because I was really interested, obviously, when he's talking about Dad. And what he said that meant the most is he said, I did it because no matter when I'm playing, when I'm writing, no matter where I am in the world, he is always with me. And then he said, that man right there is the biggest influence in my entire life. Yeah. And I was a basket case. It was one of the most amazing feelings, just hearing those words. And I mean, listen, I know John John had told us all this once before, but for my father's legacy to be involved in this massive event was just amazing. It's still surreal. It's still surreal thinking about it. So that was that. And then he did some other Q&A. Then he got the students got to ask him some questions. There was one of my favorite questions was actually the first question was excuse me one second. Was when you think back to growing up, what outfit stood out to you the most, or what outfit do you enjoy wearing the most? And it was I think it was a fashion marketing department, actually, so a fashion marketing club or something. And I got to tell you, man, you should have saw his face. But he started bringing up. He goes, I know mullets are back in. He goes, they were in back when I was a kid. So he starts talking about that. But the best was when he goes, but I'll tell you this. He goes, the first time I see people wearing Capezio shoes again, or boys wearing Capezio shoes again, he goes, that's it. They're out. So everybody got a good laugh about that. Then they asked some great songs, great questions. But later in the question and answer session with the students, one student asked, is there a particular teacher that, stood out to you, when you were going through the high school? And he said, well, he really wasn't a teacher. He goes, but like I told you, he goes, that guy right there, he was my teacher and he was my mentor, and it's one of those things where you're like, now he's reiterating how important, of a man my father was. So, at that point, the kids wrapped it up. They rushed the stage like it was a concert. And also the female teachers all had their Bon Jovi shirts on and they were waving and screaming and everything. So it was a fun time. Got to spend some quality time with John, quality time with Dave, quality time with Matt Bon Jovi. Maddie and I have been, yes, John is family with us, but Maddie and I are very, very close.
And
Yeah.
that's just the coolest guy. He
Yeah.
really is nice.
That is great. We chatted about our families and everything. And it's funny because, John's got so much going on in the world. He's doing, I think we just read something, he's going to be on Colbert. I know that he went to see Jelly Roll the other night. He's running around doing all this stuff. And and Matt says to him, he goes, did you see Dan? Now, the last time I saw John face to face, no beard, nothing like that. And I was definitely thinner. But he pointed me out and John's like, shocked, but he knows we live in North Carolina. He asked about were we affected by the storm. I mean, that's how conscious of, he knows we're in North Carolina. Yeah. And it was great, just to have that. And it was an amazing day, super surreal. And, it's I'm still, it's been 24 hours since, yeah. And I'm still on a high that I can't even describe.
Yeah. It's, and I've said this to you many times over message, how monumental it was for you and your family, for you, because just to repeat kind of what you said, what your dad did for John is so monumental in John's history. And, if it wasn't for your dad, there might have never been a Bon Jovi and the impact that, your dad essentially helped John save and impact millions of lives.
I'm glad it's funny because there are times, there was, I think I might even mention it on the last time we were on. Drew and I went to go see concert many years ago, In Heart's Wake and Fit for a King. Fit for a King happens to be my favorite band. Metalcore. Yes, I'm a 55-year-old man that still listens to metalcore. I got my slightly stupid hat on because I also like reggae. But we went to go see Fit for a King and In Heart's Wake. So we're waiting for In Heart's Wake to come on, and the jukebox is playing. And then it stops, and then their intro song that apparently they did before every stop on their tour, they have Living on a Prayer. Not their version, actually John's. Here I am with a bunch of 20, maybe early 30-year-olds in early 2020. So I'd say it was maybe 2017, maybe. They sang every word to the song, dude. And this is a metal show. We're about to mosh and stage dive and do it. And every kid in that audience knew every word to Living on a Prayer. And that's when, like you're saying, the words impacted. I can't tell you how many times we've had some funny things. We hear people tapping their feet or singing, and they're singing John's songs. Even my kids now, when their friends start singing, and they go, that's my grandfather, that's my pop, he created that. And I always say to him, I said, no, he didn't create it. He helped cultivate it. John, listen, you don't make it that far without talent. You don't make it this far. The man had it in him. Still does to this day. The question is, what did he need that spark in the beginning? He also said during the Q&A session, because somebody said, if you didn't make it in music, what would you have done? What was your fallback plan? He goes, I didn't have one. He said it was either this or nothing. Yeah. And in this day and age, you can't have that. Everybody's got to fall back on something. Yeah. He never did. He was so fixated on doing music that he wasn't going to stop. And he explains, how he fought the pitfalls and how he fought the negativity. It was a great, inspirational speech to these kids. And, ultimately it comes down to, you follow your dreams, but don't follow them blindly.
Right.
Use focus.
Yeah.
And just like I said, what he did for those kids yesterday was just, icing on the cake of what he's done for so many millions of fans.
Yeah.
And, for me, am I proud, because my dad was that involved? Sure. But what brings me the most pride is he taught two. Yeah. There's guys out there that'll say, yeah, my teacher, Joe Shingatz. Yeah, but Al Parinello created two rock stars.
Yeah.
I mean, even when they were going over Snake's accolades. Yeah, John sold over 150 million records worldwide, obviously, and throughout his career, including 30 plus with Slippery Alone. But Dave's first record sold 9 million records, and then Slave to the Grind. Dave was the first hard rock heavy metal album to ever debut at number one.
Wow.
On the Billboard charts. And Dave's got over 30 million records sold worldwide. This is two rock stars. So that's why when I always think about, the accomplishments of these boys, I call them boys, these men, it's just amazing. It's just amazing.
It is. And I think you said it perfectly too, when, you said that your dad kind of shaped John, because like you said, John has always had that talent in him and had that drive. And your dad I should say your dad shaped the path for John to be successful. Yeah. And
for years, my dad was a performer. Yeah. My dad, did he have a voice like John's back then? No. But my father, when you put, John said another thing, and it reminded me of something my dad also said many, many years ago before, John was a thing. John got up to the podium for his Hall of Fame speech, and he goes, and he fixed the microphone because everybody else was having trouble with the microphone. John grabbed it. He goes, I never met a microphone I didn't like. And my father used to say the same thing. My father used to jump on stage and bam, he would play. He'd be singing. He sang at my wedding. I mean, this is later on, this is when he was basically retired. Nope. And he sang Billy Vera and the Beaters at this moment. And the part of the song where he goes, I'll fall down on my knees. My father went on his knees. I mean, my father was the consummate performer, and he just basically, gave that energy to John so early on because he saw John had something special. Yeah. And obviously the rest is history. So.
Yeah. And there's a few things I do want to talk about with the event yesterday, but one thing I also want to just mention on your dad too, it was amazing that yesterday John was honored and it was about John, and but he made it a point, and the team and everyone made it a point to honor your dad. I think that's just amazing. It just shows you how John is not self-centered, and that he, and like you told the story about how you're from North Carolina, and the first thing he asked you was hurricane, if you were in fact, and it just shows you how he's not self-centered, and he cares about people and wants to also applaud the people that shaped him and stuff like that. So I think that's just amazing.
There's some other things, you remember the Count Basie shows?
Yes, 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 yes.
So the first Count Basie show was a Christmas show.
Yeah.
Um,
Was that the one in 91
Jerry, it's
in 90, I think.
no, when did it was 91 yeah, but what you call it? It was 91 with the Limes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my father had Lyme's disease. He got bad. Yeah, he got Bell's palsy. He had to have a
Oh,
port put in,
oh,
and everything. But the first Count Basie show, all the money went to my dad's medical bills.
oh my gosh. Wow.
I mean, this like you said, John's definitely not self-centered, but we had insurance, but the thing is, there was so John didn't want us to worry about anything. He wanted my dad to be taken care of. Later on, after my father passed away, John, helped my mother in any way she needed. You know, he knows. Well, he said it. He goes, "This man was the biggest influence in my life," and he was always doing it. But it's not only that; he also talked a lot about soul kitchens, which is now four.
Yep.
So, yep. They're a huge deal. They're a huge deal. And he gave a lot of credit to Dorothea, which he should, because she is one of the ones that obviously came with it too. Actually, it was her idea originally. Um, but this is a guy who never, listen, you and I will never reach if we combine our money and if we win a lottery, and who knows what else we would have to do, we'll never see this kind of money that the man has, and he's earned. He wasn't given this money; he earned every cent of it.
Right.
And
Yep.
when you think about it, he has concern for others, and that's something that you can't get lost in, and that's one of the criteria for getting in the High School Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Is philanthropy is a big part of it,
Yeah.
and between the Soul Foundation, the kitchens, the housing projects in Philly, so many other things John's done. The Music Cares Award obviously was
Yep.
a huge part of that as well. Um, he's, I may be younger than him, but I look at him as being, I'm like proud, um, like an elder. I'm proud to say that, I'm close with John. We have a family connection, and it's just one of those things where you're so proud of somebody, that not only has he persevered musically, but he's still doing things for others.
Yeah.
And doing this for the kids was, in my opinion, probably the greatest thing he's ever done, because here's an auditorium full of kids that some of them probably know. Actually, one young man was wearing a shirt that had a Van Halen logo on it. He goes, "You picked the wrong day to wear the wrong shirt." So, but it didn't matter,
Yeah.
but these kids hum the songs,
Yeah.
they hear mom and dad play them in the car, so they know the songs.
Yeah.
And the kids, obviously everybody in Sayreville knows John. So,
Yeah.
and to give back to these kids like that with that Q&A session was just magical.
Yeah. So I want to get into the kids part next. I want to back up just a second. When we talk about the Soul Foundation and the Soul Kitchen and the housing projects, there's so many celebrities. First off, John doesn't act like a celebrity. You know, he does what he loves to do, and he doesn't act on the whole celebrity thing. I mean, he uses it for good, but that's it.
Mhm.
But I want to go back to the Soul Foundation, the Soul Kitchen, and just kind of touch light on this because I think John deserves it.
Mhm.
As you said, Dorothea started the whole Soul Kitchen and Soul Foundation idea. And a lot of celebrities, they'll slap their name on a charity and then never touch it again. Sure, they might be on the chair or on the board, whatever, but they don't have any hands-on things. John is both. John is a chairman, he's on the board, he runs it, but he's also hands-on. You'll see him at the Soul Kitchen serving meals or doing the dishes or advocating. He's very hands-on. And that just
Remember,
shows you
the
how
chili
caring.
cook-off's coming up. The chili
Yep.
cook-off's coming up, and he'll be there just like he
Yep.
was last year.
Yep.
He will definitely be there in Tom's River again.
Yeah.
Just what he does.
And then just to kind of talk about, the kids, as I said earlier, I think it's amazing that he showed up yesterday and that having this John Bon Jovi Performing Arts Center will motivate kids years to come to think, you know what, I can make it. I can achieve my dreams, whatever those dreams are. whether it's to be a famous musician or actor or just, whatever career that you want to get into, being able to look at that sign says, you know what? John came from this town. I can make something of myself too. I can do it. And I think that's amazing because kids nowadays, I think it's harder and harder, especially with today's economy. It's
Mhm.
hard to believe in yourself and believe that you can make it. So I think that's great. And like as I said earlier, I'm a I'm 32, but I've been a fan since 2000 for 24 years.
Mhm.
And I grew up, being that younger generation of fans, and I'm no longer that younger
That's
generation. I'm
right.
kind of like in the middle now. And I think what's amazing, for the band's legacy, I think it's amazing to see younger group of fans really appreciate John's music. Like 'cause, on Twitter or Instagram or wherever, I'll talk with fans who were 18 years old or younger or older, in their 20s and just really love this band as much as I do, you do, or anybody else does. And I think that just speaks volumes about how the band's legacy will just live on for years to come. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I'll bet you, I know we can't check every high school in the country,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you right now, I know Never Say Goodbye or I'll Be There For You is definitely a prom theme every single year somewhere. I
Yeah.
mean, these are things that are generational.
Yeah.
My wife uses that word too, and John mentioned it also yesterday. You know, his music is generational.
Yep.
It's
Exactly.
different from day one because he even said that during one of his Q&A questions was he goes, yeah, he goes, I'm not going to write, ooh, she's a little runaway ever again. He goes, but I have to grow and I have to evolve. And, he tries to make things, that are, you make songs now that are more pertinent to what's going on today.
Yeah.
But, when the time was to rock, he rocked. When he needed to roll, he rolled.
Yep.
And, it's just, it's a unique, because, I know there's other bands that John made music at the same time with, back in the 80s and 90s, that are touring and are playing the exact same thing they played back in the 90s
Yeah.
and 90s.
It's still wearing, the leather and the big
Yep.
hair
And
and
they sound horrible.
yeah,
But, but at least John evolved
yep.
his music. And, it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but there are songs out there that are just still to this day very meaningful and toe tappers or, just great hits.
Yeah.
And it's so unique because it doesn't happen. I
Yeah.
remember my friends were like, yeah, we're going to see Motley Crue. I said, you go do that. You know, I ain't gonna listen. I've seen the videos. I'm not gonna watch that bowling ball roll around the stage. I'm not gonna do that. But it's so unique because, like you said, whereas these kids are hearing John now, their parents heard John then, and maybe even their grandparents heard John before,
Yeah.
and it's still there. So that's what I think. That's what I think I should say. That's what I hope these kids got from that.
Absolutely.
Because here's these kids that are 14 years old, 15 years old in these clubs in this high school. Okay, you're 15 years old. So 15 years ago, so we're talking 2009. Okay. Give me a hit from 2009 to Johns. Come on, Jared.
We
Let's
were
go.
born to follow and Superman tonight.
Okay.
The circle.
All right. So let's go 15 years prior to that, 1996.
90s. Well, they didn't have an album. So they had These Days in 95.
Okay.
And you had Something for the Pain.
So
You had
now These Days is regarded as his best album ever.
in the fan base, yes.
Yeah. So now I just took you back to 95.
Yeah.
And there it is. So these 14-year-old kids, 15-year-old kids today, 30 years ago, you had These Days. Oh, wait, here, let's go. Let's go 15 years prior to that. 1980, it was actually 84,
Yeah.
Runaway.
Runaway, yep. Debut.
So here you go. There's literally 40 years. That's a generation. That's two generations.
Yep.
And that's what makes this so amazing.
Yeah. And, just back to and for anyone that's watching and listening to this, you can go on Dan's Facebook and see photos. You can go on my Twitter, JBrady92. I've posted a ton of videos, photos from the event. So there's a lot of things that you can check out. But the one video that I posted was just all, like you said, at the end of the Q&A where John, or students and teachers just ran to the stage, and just seeing the joy on students' faces of being able to meet John, and
Yeah.
John taking time to sign stuff. And what was funny was, I don't know, funny, but you saw Matt on the side
I,
of the stage.
I was talking about it. It was very, very funny. I know. I don't know if you're going to say the same thing I did, but go ahead. I got to hear
But
this.
I think it was the principal or somebody, a lot of the students were just so excited. They were, want to get
Yep.
this type of, and then I think it was the principal that came to John to try to kind of shield him a little bit.
Yep.
And Matt was like, "It's okay, it's okay.
Yep.
He's good and stuff, and just kind. I think Matt and John were just kind of enjoying the experience, which was great.
So right after that moment, I'm standing there and I'm right behind Matt. And I lean over to him. I said, I thought you're security. Because yeah, I remember, we've gone to shows where John's walking along the railings and stuff, and Matt's holding him
Yep.
so he doesn't fall. So I go to this. I said, "Aren't you supposed to be down in that pit?" He goes, I'm management now. So he goes, so it was very cool. Matt, he's such a great kid, and I call him a kid still. Such a great guy, and
Yeah.
yeah, he goes, no, no, no. He goes, I'm management now. I don't do that
Yeah.
stuff anymore.
Yeah,
So
Matt is such a nice guy, and he's great and stuff. And so my point with the whole, with Matt telling the principal, it's okay, we're good.
yeah.
Matt knows when there's a threat.
Oh yeah.
And Matt will obviously step in and take care of John. And I know there was security there, police and blah blah blah. And there was no threat, and I think
No,
that's
there never was. I
great
mean,
about.
it's at the school. The principal, they weren't going to jump the stage with the principal there. And luckily, and I will tell you this, obviously, from going to school there as well, it's actually a ridiculously high stage from the floor.
Oh, is it?
Not
Okay.
gonna lie, because I used to do sound for all the. All right, I'll put it to you this way: when we used to set up the pit for the musical, you couldn't see it in the pit. You could see the stage.
Yeah.
They were still that's how high up the stage is
Oh,
at
okay.
Sayreville. It's
I
definitely it's like for me, I'm 5'8", 5'8.5". It's my shoulder. I
yeah.
mean, so that's how high the stage is. So yeah, there was never a threat because also, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a school function. They had plenty of security there, but
Yeah.
it was just funny
Yeah.
watching these kids. I mean, they must have chatted with each other and texted each other ahead
Oh yeah.
of time and
Yeah.
said, "We're going to rush the stage."
Yeah.
But my favorite part of that whole thing were the teachers. These women were like they were back and seeing him, on the Slippery When Wet tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was pretty neat.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that kind of goes to the generation of you have the teachers, then you have the students, and everyone's just so excited. But yeah, I thought that was so cool that Matt was like, "No, it's okay, he's fine." And John and Matt know when there's a threat, when there's not a threat. So
John, and the other thing about it is, Jared, and listen, I've seen John perform. I've seen John after tours exhausted. I've seen John in, family gatherings. He had a blast.
yeah,
He
absolutely.
absolutely had a blast. He had a blast talking to these kids and meeting some of the kids. He had a blast seeing all the memorabilia that we put together, the yearbooks. Him and Snake going back and forth with their banter was hilarious. I mean, some of the most hilarious stuff. And then from obviously, the song Just Older, where he talks about Coach T.
That's my
Coach,
next point I want to talk about.
yes, Coach T was there. Coach T just recently got inducted into the Sayreville High School Athletic Hall of Fame. And so they told him, "We want you there." He literally came up to my wife and I were walking. He goes, "I don't know where I'm supposed to be." I mean, because he didn't know why he was being invited and everything like that. But the lyrics to Just Older are on the wall. And it says, "Tell Coach T, come here." But
Yeah,
so we were all like, but I personally think I yelled it out first. I said that would be a great picture between John, having the lyrics between John, and sure enough, boom, they ran over there and they took
yeah,
the picture.
yeah.
Um,
And it's really cool, because I've listened to Just Older for 24 years, and like you just hear the lyric, tell Coach T that I've cut my hair. And in recent years, when John performs, it's tell Coach T I've got my hair.
yeah.
But to finally see what Coach T looks like, and
Well, see, it
and
was
all,
tough. Everybody saw him as a retiree. Obviously, we saw the pictures and everything. See, I went to school. Coach T was still a coach.
yeah,
Coach T, he had the fingers the size of bananas. And if you were not listening in class, he'd come behind you and flick you in the neck. And
Yeah.
he tells you that was some pain for motivation.
Wow.
It was just, and he had this booming voice and everything, but he meant so much to so many. And, he brought that up because John did participate in athletics 1 year. He played football for 1 year, then he joined the marching band instead. But Snake Sabo was a was a all state pitcher, fantastic baseball player. But he also he looked at Dave because Coach D's like, you didn't cut your hair. No, I mean, because Snake still got the long hair. But it was really, there was a lot of it was almost like a mini reunion, in the sense, because there were so many different things. Coach T being there,
Yeah.
me representing my dad, guys I went to school with, people who saw John play when he was with Rays on that stage. So many different things. So
Yes.
many different things. So,
A
you
couple
know,
more things I want. Oh, I'm sorry. A couple more things I want to touch base on it before we wrap up is,
sure.
you talked about earlier, and like I said, anyone that wants to see these photos, just go online. They're everywhere.
Mhm.
I think it's just so cool that it wasn't just putting a plaque up or putting a picture up and then calling it a day. I mean, really, there's just walls of, like I said, album covers, lyrics, pictures of John's career, even before the debut era,
Sure.
years from 78 to 83 that are up, and your dad's plaque. My one question to you, I know I see the guitar, but I don't know if the one that where he signed it, is that guitar inscribed to your dad, AP
No,
95? No? Okay,
no,
so another,
so John has two or three of the Takamines.
right.
They're all tuned differently. So like when he's on stage, there's actually when he performs, there are two of them. One of them is the AP 95 with also the Notre Dame logo.
Yeah.
It's on that guitar. That is his prized possession. That's the one, obviously, that is for certain songs. But then there are other songs. I mean, this I don't know all the inner workings, but we've been backstage. I know you've done the tour. There's John, who's a part-time guitar player with the band. He's got 10 guitars.
Yeah.
Phil's got 15 guitars. Shanks has got 15 guitars. It depends on what the song is. So instead of, like where you go to a band at a bar where they're like, oh, wait, we're going to play this song, and you see them retuning the guitar, these guitars are all pre-tuned. So that's why there are two black guitars. Now, I don't know with that guitar that's currently in that case, the one that he just signed yesterday. I don't know if that's a replacement guitar or if that's another one he got just for the school. But there are some Bon Jovi picks on there as
Yeah.
well. That's all in locked in the case. So.
Yeah. So looking at it, it looked like it was an earlier tour guitar, like he used in recent, maybe 2 or 3 tours ago.
Mhm.
But I saw there was scratch pick marks from
Oh
him.
yeah, it was definitely played. It
So
was
it's
definitely
definitely a
played.
stage used guitar. So I
Yes.
think that was cool that he donated that. And like you said
Yes.
earlier, that guitar is going to be seen years to come, and
Yep.
it's to the school. So I think that's
Mhm.
pretty cool. Um, but was there anything else that you wanted to share or
Um, you know, I will never be. It's never about me. you know and it's I will do my best to be a vessel of knowledge, or fun facts, so to speak, or share my experiences. um for me, and with all due respect to John and Dave, this is about my dad. And what John did yesterday, talking about my dad, and what the school has done, with that studio, is with in cooperation with JBJ, you know, um, it's just so funny, dude. That's the only way I can say it. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you, and TV's on over there, and Friends is on. Okay, so these people are all famous, but how did they get there? Did someone get them there? John got there with my dad's assistance,
yep.
and so did Dave, with my dad's assistance, and that nothing can ever change that.
Yep.
That's the thing for me. And that's why I say it's kind of funny because, tomorrow I'll get up, get ready. I'll go out to a store. And sure enough, I'm telling you right now, I know I'm going to hear a Bon Jovi song somewhere.
Yep.
And someone is going to be sitting there humming it. And I'm going to be like, yep, if it wasn't for Pop, you
Yep.
would be listening to that song. And till
Exactly.
the day I stop breathing, dude, it's going to be that way. And that's why this is all. And like I said, the best word I've come up with now is surreal.
Yeah.
It's just surreal.
You,
Because the funny thing is, a lot of the people that have been messaging me, my phone's been going off. I put it on silent. My phone has been going off literally since yesterday afternoon. With, did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see? Here's the thing. There are people I went to graduate high school with that still don't realize that my dad is my dad.
yeah.
I know these guys, they signed my yearbook and blah, blah, blah. They're like, wait, your dad is AP 95? Yes. I mean, I grew up in the same town as
Yeah.
you. How do you not know this?
Yeah.
And it's just so unique. And you know, I didn't see if Jason responded yet, but I'm really anxious to see what Jason Morey says too.
Yeah.
Because I know
Jason's awesome.
he worships John so much and has so much respect for him. And I remember Jared. It was one of the funniest days. Is that Renee and I saw them on the waterfront in Wilmington. What year was that, hon? 2012, 2013. They're playing down there, and
Yeah.
he gets off stage, and they were great. And he's like looking at, taking pictures with fans, and they're shaking hands. And I walked up to him. I said, "I just want to let you know you did a great job. Thank you, for a great show." He's like, and literally had a rock star face on. He's like, "All right, thank you, man. Appreciate it." And I said, "By the way, AP 95 is my dad." And he looked like he saw a ghost, dude. He's like, "No, Al is your dad." So boom,
Yeah.
he knew the whole story right off there.
Yeah.
He's got it on his guitar and everything. And then just a couple years ago, he's playing at a little place, a little further down the waterfront in Wilmington, and their van got broken into. So they had no equipment.
Oh
They
gosh.
they traveled to Wilmington. They got their opening band let them use the equipment. They still played, but Jason stopped after the show. I was talking to Aiden and I was talking to Jason, and we were sitting there talking, blah blah blah. As soon as Jason got another guitar, AP 95, he goes, "I made sure I put it right on the guitar."
Wow.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. How my dad
Yeah.
is affecting. And then here's something else. And I know I'm rambling, but it just piqued my. I just remembered it. You've been to the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
I had no idea that my dad's name is actually in the Hall of Fame. There's the red photo. It's a red background, a mat,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
and it tells the story. It has the John playing the guitar, and it says, my brother sent me the picture of it, and it says the AP 95 stands for John's mentor, Al Parinello.
Yeah.
So now I can tell people my dad is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. That's
Come
awesome.
on. I mean, this, like I said,
Yeah.
it's my dad. It's not me. It's not me. But, when we all talk about being proud, oh, I'm proud of my son. I'm proud of dude, my dad. Come on.
Absolutely.
I'm just blessed to, be, his son.
Yeah.
And my God, I mean, when you think about it and the effect he's had on so many people, I'm just so
Yeah.
amazingly,
And,
humbled. So
and I want to say this too, just as much as we're praising, how he shaped John and Snake, all that, I want to say this to you. Just being able to know you in the last few years have been a real honor because I've gotten to know you on a personal level. We've just talked, not just about Bon Jovi, but just other things. And just being able to talk to you so much, I can see how great of a man he raised in you. You're a good man. I have so much respect, appreciation for you. And I'm glad I can call you a friend because I know that your dad has raised a good man. And I
Thank you.
want you to
I
know that.
appreciate that. And right back at you, man, because, I know we met by chance with a Twitter post, but, it's been really great getting to know you, as a friend, especially with Baby B very,
Yeah.
very soon.
7 weeks. Yeah.
So do we have a name yet or no?
We do have a name. Once we end the recording, I'll tell you the
All
name.
right, cool.
We're keeping it down low until we
I got you.
she's
No worries.
born,
No
but
worries. But man, that's 7 weeks, huh? Oh
seven
my
weeks, yeah.
gosh, dude. That's
Yeah.
gonna be, and that's great. But once again, I thank you for everything. It's been a great, it's been a great ride. And I don't meet a lot of people along the way that I know that are genuine like you. So that's one of the reasons why, you are a friend. You're a friend first and foremost. But whatever we can do to, appease the masses when it comes to God, I'll
Exactly.
be more than happy to do that stuff. And like I said, when we do the live one time, we can do some fun stuff.
Yeah.
People that'll be dialing in as
Yeah.
well.
We got to get that organized because I remember when we did we'll wrap up here in a second.
Sure.
We on Instagram when you had joined the live, I had people message me, oh, you got to get Dan back. I love that episode. He had so many fun stories, and can you get him on to tell more fun stories? So we will
I
definitely,
definitely have a few more up my sleeve. I
yeah,
definitely
and we'll definitely do another episode of you telling more stories,
do.
and like you said, showing some things. But thank you for. I know that the last 2 days have been such a
Oh my
whirlwind
gosh,
for you.
dude. It's funny. We got to sleep in a little bit this morning,
Yeah,
but even my wife and I, we're still like,
yeah,
we're walking, just I mean, listen, I had one bag, she had one bag. I mean,
yeah,
we knew it was a one night thing and still walking. We're like, oh my God, what an exhausting,
yeah.
24 hours it's been. So, but it was
Yes,
well worth it.
yeah, yeah. And so like that. I know the last 2 days have been so crazy for you, and you just got home, and the first thing you did was get on this podcast. So I appreciate you just despite being tired and how crazy that's, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast.
A lot of
And
fun. It's a lot of fun. And
so,
it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of pride
yeah,
because I definitely wanted to share. Like I said, I mean, I could have waited till I got home. I made sure I shared my post on Facebook before I got on that plane
yeah,
because a lot of people had been asking me, tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me. I'm like, I'll put a post up. So,
yeah,
but like even for this, I wanted to get it out there, fresh so that when this thing, releases and everything, everybody can get a little tidbit of,
yeah,
behind the scenes kind of thing, but not too personal. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's just a lot of fun, dude. It's
yeah,
just a lot.
absolutely.
Being in this position, is it going to make my life any better? On any kind of level? Not really, except just a
In
lot.
here,
Just yeah, exactly, always. But
exactly.
like I said, the big A, like I said, man, there it is, boom, right there.
And that's just beautiful. And
Oh, by
it's
the way,
great they
here's a
gave
little
you an
hint.
option.
Here's a little hint what my next tattoo is going to look like.
There it is.
Jimmy Buffett right there, but no, that's coming next. It's
And
coming
you
next
gotta
very
show me
soon.
as soon as you get it.
You
So.
got it.
But all right, let me stay on. I'm going to end the video.
I
But
got you.
again, I can't say it enough. Thank you for taking the time today. Thank you for always being great to me. And it's great to call you a friend. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, Jer.
All right.